It's 9:05 at 97.5 Glory FM, and welcome once again to the Saturday Morning Sports Show. Mike Wofford with you here. We bring you high school, college, and pro sports action until 10 o'clock this morning. And we got a lot to talk about this morning. High school football, state playoff action. We got college football that you heard here on 97.5 Glory FM yesterday with Georgia and Georgia Tech. We've got Georgia State playing Old Dominion today in the final game of the regular season. We're going to talk high school basketball, college basketball, NFL football, and a lot more this morning here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.5 Glory FM. We're going to start things off by talking about one of the biggest stories in the nation this week in sports. It came locally as Gainesville was scheduled to take on Langston Hughes last night in the quarterfinal round of the Class 5A state playoffs, but it did not take place after what happened last Friday night when the Elephants won their game against Brunswick in the second round of the state playoffs. They won 42-0 in a game that was stopped with less than 2 minutes remaining in the third quarter when a fight broke out between the two schools. And then the Georgia High School Association got involved, and it's been a very busy week. Back on Monday, the GHSA, they met in their offices down in Thomaston, and they ended up suspending 39 Gainesville players at that time. They suspended 41 players from Brunswick, and they also put Brunswick on probation for the 2026-2027 school year. They declared that the Brunswick football team could not play in the state playoffs next year. They're ineligible to play in the state playoffs. School was fined $5,000, and those 41 players were suspended. Now, the athletic director for the Glenn County down in Brunswick, he said they take full responsibility to not want Gainesville to be penalized, but the GHSA did say that there were 39 players that were involved in the altercation when they left the sidelines, even players that were not fighting, but they were on the field. They were guilty by association. They would be suspended for the game last night. But then Gainesville appealed that ruling, went to the Board of Trustees of the GHSA, a 13-member board, back on Tuesday, and they heard the appeal by Gainesville at that time. They declared that 4 players would be able to play. It went down to 34 players after Gainesville said there was 1 player they did say was involved, and they were going to self-report and suspend him. So there was 34 players that would not be playing in the game last night. But then the GHSA made that ruling. Then Gainesville's school system got involved, from Superintendent Jeremy Williams, Athletic Director Adam Lindsay, head football coach Josh Nibble, and there's videos you can find online and hear their comments that they made. They would decide to go to the court system then, to go into the Northeast Georgia judicial system with the Superior Court, and they heard a case fast track on Wednesday at the courthouse here in Gainesville, and Judge Clint Bearden heard the arguments made by the GHSA, their lawyers, and also by the attorneys for the Gainesville school system, and then he made a ruling. There's a long video that you can hear, but also he made a 27-page ruling, and that he did file the injunction against the GHSA, saying that he was going to overturn the suspension of the players. They could play last night. That took place just after 4 o'clock on Wednesday, and you saw details on our website. Ken Stanford was following, along with myself, following the information that we were getting from Gainesville and from the GHSA. Then around 7 o'clock on Wednesday night, GHSA decided they're going to appeal that ruling. And then that's when we get our next guest involved here on the show this morning. We're going to talk a lot about high school sports in general, what's going on with this ruling. The GHSA said they're going to appeal. So when you appeal a Superior Court judge's ruling, it goes to the next highest court, which is the State Court of Appeals. And now they're waiting to hear when that's going to be taking place. The game was suspended last night, and now let's put everything up in jeopardy when it comes to the high school football state playoffs. And join me as a longtime friend, Emory Dunn, who's a representative to the Georgia General Assembly. I even saw information talking to Emory about there's a possibility now the Georgia General Assembly may get involved, maybe taking over the GHSA when they meet in January. We'll talk all about that this morning. Hey, Emory, good morning, buddy.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving late, Mike. Hope you ate a lot of turkey, a lot of ham. In fact, I think I've been out to pasture the last day. I ate so much. But,
well, you know I eat too much from that standpoint.
Well, we're looking at this a little different when I started thinking about it. I kind of wrote down a few things, pondered on it.
Okay, I interrupt you right quick. I want to let everybody know you, but you got a different perspective. And Emory and I went to high school together. He was a great athlete when he played. He's been a great businessman and a long-time representative for the past decade of the Georgia General Assembly. He's got a little different look at this, not only from the legal standpoint, being a representative, but also he has a close relationship to this, and that his son-in-law is an assistant coach with the Gaines football team. But also, I thought it was interesting too, Emory, that he represents the eastern portion of Hall County and most of Jackson County. And if Jackson County had won their game last night, they could possibly have played Gainesville. I know you were interested in all that. Jackson County lost their game with that historic season coming to an end. They lost their game last night to Rome, 31-17. But I knew you had a different look at all of this.
You know, and I'm going to give you the start of, let's look at it from Langston Hughes.
Exactly.
Langston Hughes, they're in a bad spot.
Sure.
Their whole season gets put on ice. Their prep getting thrown off, and it could even mess with eligibility timelines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, games have to be finished by certain dates, and players' eligibility is tied to that schedule.
Sure.
So when you start thinking about Langston Hughes, they can walk into a court and they can say, you know, this delay harms us.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't cause it. We weren't part of the injunction. The fight, PHSA, should be able to block our postseason, you know, because they're trying to get around an order they don't like.
Yep.
And, you know, we looked at some things, and I think Jason Amatardi, he even has come up with some stuff. The Florida, basically, they ran through this, and they ran through it. They kept having problems, and they finally took to the legislature, and they put their athletics association under the State Board of Education.
Yes.
Now, the board now approves major rules, oversees eligibilities, makes decisions, and with that, they did it because Florida was taking the abuse of its power, and they were doing just like we've done at the Georgia High School Association. It's called arrogance and abuse. And now, I'm not 100% that I want the Board of Education, which has many problems of themselves.
Yes, sir.
But there has to be some rules put in called common sense, and we shouldn't have to ever do that. But in the political world, as we all know, sometimes lots of people check common sense at the door, and they're educated beyond their means, which usually means pure stupidity.
The thing about it, everybody know too, the Georgia High School Association is unique. The fact I compare it to a homeowners association because I receive a contract every year to broadcast state playoff games, and I have to I read the contract, and it always says we're an association. We're not a business. We're not a corporation. We're not a 501c3 charity. We're an association, and the 450-plus schools that make up the GHSA are the ones that basically that govern what goes on in sports and athletics in the state of Georgia. But you have a group of men down in Thomaston who really rule what goes on.
Well, you know, if I was handling the GHSA right now, here's the lines I would push. We respect the court's ruling, and we want to ensure a fair and timely postseason for every student athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Now, think about that. Then after reviewing the available video, we will move forward with self-reported Gainesville players without clear evidence of border suspensions. We cannot justify keeping additional students out of the game. Our focus is getting both teams back on the field and protecting the integrity of the playoffs. See, to think about integrity, that means that there's rules, Mike, and I watched the film now 18 times. I've watched it back and forth, just like I did if I was studying to teach the kids, here's what we're going to play on defense, here's what we're going to cover on our offense, here's what the other team's going to do. And after I looked at it, you know, I started thinking, well, here it is. They said one rule, you cannot leave the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch that, it's been discussed, as you mentioned, over and over. A player, he's broken up on the pass. He turns around, retaliates against the defensive back, rips his helmet off, and he grabs the next player next to him, rips his helmet off. They're standing there, a player with their hands up, the other straight down. He punches this kid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when that happens, you're like, what the heck? Here comes this, and I hate to be this guy. Number 77 did this a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing, a young thug that sits there, runs 40 yards across the field, blindsides this kid. And then if you really watch it, we've got receiver for Gainesville, Phil Williams. He's on the ground being kicked and stomped like gang members.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing, finally. It's like you don't sit there and the one referee is 10 feet away standing there.
Mm-hmm.
The other referee is 20 feet away. Understand, these referees are older men, don't want to get in, but they understand to take control of the game. Look at all the policemen that are to all the ball games.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are on the field yet. And then it's like, wait a minute, guys. The coaches were pushing the players back at Gainesville, but the players on the field, they were already on the field. 2 or 3 started thinking enough. And they chased this one guy down, tackled him. One of Gainesville players punched the other one that was punching kids. It's not right. But Gainesville looked at it, and Gainesville said, look, these 4 are players. They broke the rules.
Mm-hmm.
The others came off the sideline because we have to protect our own, because Phil Williams could have had his ribs broken. He could have had a shoulder dislocated. I mean, they were violently like a gang jumping all over him. And that's the problem we have. We go and said, look, we're not going to punish these kids. We're going to play. We go to a Superior Court judge who does this every day. He reviews the evidence. After he reviews it, he comes back and puts Gainesville intact except 4 players. Now the game's going Friday night where people are on Thanksgiving break. They're ready for football to continue like last night. We watched Carrollton off and on between Texas and Texas A&M. We watched Carrollton manhandle Grayson.
Yep.
That's what it's about, high school football. That's fun. We watched Jackson County pulling for them. Jefferson won. You know, we've got teams here, but here's Gainesville, PP, postponed. And when you start looking at it, you know, like I said, the refs, the security did nothing. Now, Brunswick did this a year earlier. Number 77 was suspended then, but was reinstated. And the Georgia High School Association said, oh, no, you don't. We'll show you like they do so many times. And by doing that, what they did was they went ahead and said, well, we will go ahead and we will just show you. We'll maybe play it Tuesday of next week. Now, think about it. Now, one of these teams would have been finished this morning. The other would have been practicing for another team, which would be wrong. And all of a sudden, here it is. If the appellate court, the appeals court will look back, they will have several judges that will look and say, okay, here's what the only question is that Georgia High School Association is saying. They left the sideline. You cannot leave the sideline. And with that, it's not the circumstance of what's going on and the timing of nothing coming together like we have security should have stepped forward. None of this has happened, so you make a decision. And when you made the decision, there's several young kids. You got to remember, these are young kids that aren't completely adults yet. And they come on the field, and only 4 of them really crossed the line. The others were pushing players back. The coaches were pushing them back, and they were trying to protect their friends, their buddies. So what happens? Georgia High School Association gets their feelings hurt, goes to the appellate court. Now we'll know, I think it's Monday.
Maybe.
And everybody's got to be able to go and travel and play on Tuesday. That means school has changed completely. You had school out on Friday. Now you've got to disrupt another day of school for both schools. Everything has to be changed, and the logistics has to be changed. You have to now have people that weren't working the game on Friday night, security and everything. Now you have to make sure that we reschedule all that. Like it's really pure nonsense when you look at the main reason that this is happening is GHSA is saying we are going to do it our way, and that's the problem I really see. Do you remember Speaker Murphy when he went through this?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do.
You remember his school, Bremen?
Yes.
Was getting beat by all these loaded private schools?
Yes.
Georgia High School Association didn't do anything.
Yes.
And he said, I'll show you. And he changed it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we're going to have to look at this seriously to put some guardrails, parameters around this situation if we don't change other things.
Let's think about it. Our guest this morning on the Saturday Morning Sports Show is Representative Emory Donohue, who has a different look at the situation between Gainesville and the Georgia High School Association game with Langston Hughes, the number one team in the state, by the way, down in Fairburn, undefeated going into the game, and it'd be a great ball game if they're able to play it. And one thing about it is that when we talk about this, is you mentioned before, Emory, is about politics. And it's one thing we don't need in high school sports, athletics, in the state of Georgia, is politics.
Oh, I agree. But look at it this way. Here, when a private association like GHSA is given a de facto control over every major high school sport in Georgia, think about that. The structure itself, it creates this issue. They run the rule book. They run the officials. They set the penalties. They collect the gate fees. They decide who plays and who sits. You know, there's no independent review board or an appeal board that tracks outside of what if happens. And when they do that, the walls of the public accountability standards start collapsing.
Let's go point by point, buddy, if we could. First off, have you read the rule in the GHSA bylaws and Constitution?
Have I read them?
Yes. Have you read that rule? Because what everybody's assuming, and let's first of all say, no matter what you think about Gainesville High, no matter what you think about the Georgia High School Association, separate that for a moment. There's a lot of, feelings either way about, yes, I'm a big Red fan, or I hate Gainesville County schools, other schools in the region, that kind of thing. Same thing with GHSA. Is that you look at this, the rule in the bylaws, one word that Judge Bearden back on Wednesday looked at is not automatic that when you leave the sidelines you're ejected, because look at what the officials did. Look who was ejected from the ball game when they stopped the ball game less than 2 minutes ago in the third quarter. And the one word mentioned is intent. So
intent of the player.
Correct. So are they out there to start a fight? They're out there trying to protect someone? They're trying to keep the fight from escalating? All of that taking place, and that's the one thing the GHSA has not taken into account of what's going on with all this.
And you're right, when I kept watching over and over, if you really break it slow, you'll start seeing that half of the players that came on the field were putting a shield up, bringing the other players off the field, not throwing punches, never hit anybody, never got jawing at anybody. And then what happened, you still focus on the handful of players. And even looking at Brunswick, they had a couple of their players standing barely on the field, but they were not in anything. They were just watching it like a movie. Like, wow, can you believe this is happening? And Brunswick, even their superintendent, their people said we were at fault. But my grandson plays on the middle school at Gainesville. And Levi was a ball boy on the other side. He said, Papa, they were cussing us.
Oh, sure.
They were calling us all kind of nasty language. And they were just, he said, Papa, they were like a bunch of animals. They were just rude, mean. And I said, well, Levi said, I can say it, and you can say it. When you act bad, what happens? You're going to get spanking or you're going to be punished. Now, let's look at it from the other side. When you act in self-defense, now that's different circumstances. And as you said, the main thing the judge came to on 27 pages, what was the intent? What was the intent of every player? But no, they took it that we're going to take 39 players, we're going to punish them when there was 41 of Brunswick players punished. And Gainesville did not perfectly nothing. I'm sure there was some jawing. It happens in college. It happens in high school.
Well, you heard Coach Dillon talk about Emory, and you see it too. He said this was just one incident. This was a third quarter play. It had been going on the entire ball game, and the officials didn't really do their job to keep it from escalating. To calm it down. It just kept escalating, and then that's when the Brunswick players did what they did. And I even asked the GHSA representative about punishment to the officials. Nothing being done to the officials at all. They are safe right now, and they could officiate anytime in the future.
Right, and you get to call basketball games all the time, and I have friends that I've had fun with that are referees.
Sure.
I'll pick at them.
Sure.
I'll do this. I'll go back and forth. I jaw with them a little bit because we've been friends 30 and 40 years. Some of them I feel are old enough they use walkers going up and down the court. But with it, it's always that you do it with respect.
Sure.
You have fun. It's kind of laughing. I had a ref come running up the stands, and everybody's looking like, what happened? And he shakes my hand, gives me a hug, says, man, I hadn't seen you in 30 years. And guess what? Everybody thought he was coming to get me. But with that, there's a certain thing of camaraderie. You're at the ball games. You get to hear the fans. There's only a handful of bad ones.
Sure.
And there's every once in a while, there's some referee that's so bad that, he needs to be ribbed a little bit.
Oh,
but
sure.
there's only certain boundaries that you can use. You can't go out and threaten them. You can't run on the court and punch them. You can't do that. So it's kind of like you have to realize other refs that are really doing a good job, you just have to support them because nobody wants to be a referee anymore. But we had police there. When I go to a Gainesville ball game, they have 12 to 14 police officers that you can visibly see. Not only the ones you can see, there's 8 to 10 more that you don't realize who they are.
But Gabriel, right there, be asking for the fans listening to us this morning, is that what is the job of the security there? We have the SROs there, and the city of Gainesville different. They have actual police there. And there's probably a dozen that Chief Parrish has at the home games there. But isn't their job basically to keep fans away from the players, not to be involved with what goes on in the field?
That's it. They're supposed to make sure security for all people in that stadium. Fans are number one. However, if something breaks out on the field, they're supposed to keep fans off the field.
Correct.
They're supposed to make sure security does not allow a complete brawl. That's the job they're supposed to do. But when you've got 1 or 2 or 3, I guarantee you, Mr. Niles, he would have been out there to break somebody up.
Yes, sir.
And there would have been somebody there to make sure that the authority would have been, guys, back off. You are going to jail right now. And with that authority, most kids they'll back off. They realize they're in trouble. But there's a handful of kids, Mike, that they grow up without any father figure.
Bingo.
They grow up where they are in a gang-type mentality, and with that, they carry it on and they get in trouble later in life. And I always pray and hope that these kids find the right pathway, but I see it all the time. I see disrespect. Years ago when I coached, when they stepped on the field, I said, pull your pants up. I don't want to see your backside.
There you go.
And when you answer someone, it's yes, sir, no, sir.
Yes,
so we
sir.
understand each other. And that's the way it is. It's called integrity. It's called respect. And when we walked on the field and hit home runs or stole bases, we act like we had been there before, and people notice that. But now you got everybody, even in college, and I love college. I'm excited about today, and last night it was great watching Texas upset, Texas A&M. But the biggest thing is it's the fun of watching these kids compete, but you have a few that always carry it a little too far, and usually they handle that professionally. We had nothing professional about that the other Friday night, and now it's a domino effect where all the kids are the ones suffering.
Sure. Every couple of things for you. First off, when you look at players in terms of security and safety, when you have kids, we'll call them, we're talking about football players that maybe turn 18 years old, then you're considered adult by the law. Think about that number 77, for example. I think he's a senior. if he would be 18 years old and what he did, he could be charged with a crime, couldn't he?
Yeah, there's two of them. I understand on Brunswick that were charged.
Mm-hmm.
I can't officially say.
Right,
I'm sure 77's one, and
right.
the kids that took moments off. It has to be those.
And
two.
I think they need to understand that too. Once you turn a certain age, then you really have to behave yourself.
Oh, you know what? And I you know me. I didn't start fights, get in fights, and pick people. People respected me, and I knew how to handle myself very well. But I never will forget the fight. And guess what? My dad sat me down and said, "Son, you're 18. You just turned 18. You're an adult. Your life changes by stupid things you do from now on."
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget that.
Mm-hmm. So also the GHSA, when they met back on Tuesday, remember they met on Monday, made the ruling after looking at the film, but then they had the Board of Trustees meet, 13 members. The vote was 6-4, but there were 3 members that had to recuse themselves, and they probably would have voted in favor of Gainesville, one being the Glenn County, the athletic director, who said that Gainesville shouldn't be penalized. He couldn't vote. Then there was another member who was also in Class 5A. He couldn't vote. He probably would have voted in favor of Gainesville. They could have gotten by all this, and if the Board of Trustees had really listened to even some of their board members, they could really have voted all of this.
Oh, it was, when you look at it, here's the problem. GHSA, they're acting with the power of a state regulator. Mm-hmm. Think about that.
Sure.
But without any checks and balances that normally come with the kind of authority that if something happens that's once a year, twice, up to 3 to 4 times a year, you have another authority that can come in, look at this, oversee it, make a decision. They're non-biased, and when they do that, they look at the situation, what's best for all the kids, what's best to treat the ones that were the bad actors, and to make sure this goes on, and they would have played last night. And then you have to look at the referees who you turn to. The families have no neutral referee, so this is a neutral group that would come in, make decisions, and everything stays inside the GHSA. And, it's within their own circle, but you have an organization that can make things happen. Well, that didn't happen. And that's the problem, is it didn't happen because the arrogance of a handful that always are the same ones with GHSA, that we're going to do it our way. We're going to do it our way, and that's it. And that's where I have a problem, is they should have checks and balances and parameters put if. The big word I always say, if. When if happens, then someone has to be prepared to respond in a professional way.
So what happens now is the big question. I had sent an email to Jason Anfitarte, who had been a guest on our station a few weeks ago. He is the majority leader for the state Senate, and he was unable to be with me this morning, of course, being the Thanksgiving holiday. I'm glad you were with me this morning to talk about this. So it's okay. I got a feeling that because as much publicity and news this has made throughout the entire sports world, when it comes to high school, I don't think high school sports are ever going to be the same, Emory, and I'm looking forward to seeing what representatives may do in January.
Well, I talked to Senator Chuck Hustadler, and when I talked to him, sent him some stuff about the Florida ruling and what they looked at. He said, very interesting. I said, not that we have to go down this path. And legislators can make some of the stupidest decisions we do ourselves.
Amen.
However, we need to vet this. We need to look at it, discuss it. We need to put some rules in place for a secondary, non-biased group. And with that, that's one of the things I'm going to push for, is just to have, like I said, parameters around a situation like this. And with that, we take and make sure that we have something in place if it ever happens again.
It was funny, even when the classifications came out and with the regions and with the power rankings, I made a comment to a coach a month ago. And I said, okay, I'm ready to make a new association and be in charge. He goes, sign me up, Mike. It was like, there's so many people that are not happy, but at the same time, they don't see an alternative. There were private schools that had the option to move into the GISA and not playing the GIAA, like Lakeview Academy, for example. And so, okay, you see all this happening with the GHSA, and it's like, okay, I got a feeling that something's going to change maybe by the next school year, Emory.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree, because as we all say, hold on to your daughters. The legislators are coming to town, and make sure there will be other things that will be laid out that was not well thought of.
Uh-huh.
And we need to make sure but there are good things we pass. And with that, it's pretty much where I think we're seriously going to have enough people that will entertain this on the Senate and the House side that we will change a few things. We will put a little bit of, the guardrails on, and we'll make sure that something like this doesn't happen again.
You know what's going to happen, though? You're going to have some lobbying, I got feeling, from some guys down in Thomaston. They're going to tell you what they know better than you, Emory, you know?
Oh, yeah. They're not. And the lobby, I've got good friends that are lobbyists, and guess what? I can vote on 8 out of 10 bills that they support and make money on. They're not bad bills. They do things that helps Georgia or could help my district.
I'm talking to the guys of the GHSA themselves. I'm saying, hey, Representative Donahue, I think y'all do this, that kind of thing, or basically leave us alone. I can say, hey, leave us alone. Let's do our job.
Yeah. Oh, they'll be there. Trust me. Every time we have something pops up, last year we had tort. We had attorneys everywhere. We had convenience stores. We had so many lobbyists and concerned people that were showing up every day, and that's what they should do. And you and I, we're people that should show up when we have an agreement or disagreement with something to say, let's make this better, and that's the public. I tell the public all the time, Mike, I've gotten to the point, the older I get, this is my 15th year, when they come up and they're complaining about this and complaining about that, I'll say, I can't help stupid. They'll look at me and say, what did you just say? What did you just say? I said, I can't help stupid. If you're going to be stupid, you don't go vote, and you don't at least let your voice be heard, I can't help you. And, I've got to where they'll call it, well, I'm mad about this. I'll say, you didn't vote this year, did you? Well, I didn't have time. I said, we don't have anything to talk about. You mean you're my representative? I said, no, you don't have one. I've gotten bold enough to where if it's stupid, I'm tired of dealing with stupid, and that's with the public. Well, it's the same thing with the Georgia High School Association. They do good things. They've done a lot of good things. The problem is they need to start thinking about who it affects when they make a decision that really is of arrogance. Arrogance, when the judge came forward, Judge Bearden, and he did a 27-page report, and pretty much, as you said, the main thing in there, what was the intent? And with the intent, how many players were responsible? Truly from Brunswick, was it 7? Was it 4 from Gainesville? Well, everybody from both teams broke it, but the main ones, Brunswick was the aggressors. They came breaking the front door down, and when they did, they started throwing kids around.
Yep.
And when they did that, now you have to go into self-defense.
Yep.
And that's the bottom line where I look at it is I tell people I will feed you, I will help clothe you, but you come to my house with ill intentions to hurt my family, you made a bad mistake.
Amen, brother.
And, that's just the way I am. And I've got people who say, I thought you were a Christian. Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Amen.
But guess what? Enough's enough, and I'm not going to tolerate evil.
There you go. All right, final thing for that. Again, no matter what you think about Gainesville High or about the football program and all the things we've heard about the program and GHSA, but come to the point, let everybody know this. Don't you write things this way, Emory, is that I've heard over and over again, well, the Gainesville went ahead, didn't like what happened Tuesday, so they went to a sympathetic judge. So any time that you don't like something, you're going to go to the court system. This is what's going to end up happening. Address everybody with that.
Well, now, I understand exactly. We have that under President Trump where every time he does something, an Obama-appointed judge comes in, does it go by the law? I tell judges this, they're my friends, but I remind a handful of them, I write law, you interpret law. You do not make the parameters of within that law what your desires are. You only go by what the law says, and you make a ruling. And with that, when Judge Bearden did this, he is held responsible, accountable to make sure that within the boundaries of the law that he takes with integrity and comes up with a solution. And that's why it takes so many pages of attorney jargon to come up and say, within the boundaries, here's what happened, here's what we know happened, here are facts, here are assumptions, but the main intent is what we're looking for of each player. Now, Gainesville could have asked the GHSA, each player one at a time, taken all day. Here's the case. Here's this player on film. We're not sure because we can't tell every number, but each one vote yes or no. And now they put the GHSA on record of voting every player instead of a block. Those are the problems that we have, is too many times we have people that continuously will not, and I mean will not hold people accountable. Well, the judge is held accountable, and with that, that means that they have to do things, and they have to go by the law.
All right, we're going to see you Tuesday night. We got East Hall and North Hall basketball on Tuesday night. We're going to see you there.
Yes, sir. We'll do it. Maverick actually got to play against Raven.
Good for him.
And hit 2 threes and an 8-pointer, so I was tickled for it.
All right, buddy. I'll see you then. Hey, thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
You take care. See you now.
Happy Thanksgiving, man. Appreciate it very much. That is Emory Donahue, who is representative to the area with the Hall County and Jackson County area. His grandson is a member of the middle school football team at Gainesville. His son-in-law is an assistant football coach, and I like his perspective from being a legislator also about how all of this is coming down. And we'll have much more for you right here on 97.5 Glory FM. I'll have the results of last night's games and more coming up next. You're tuned to the Saturday Morning Sports Show on 97.5 Glory FM.
And one of their sports medicine and orthopedic doctors will be there to help identify, treat, and care for your injury. To learn more, you may visit ngpg.org/blackandblue.
Welcome to Long Street Radio. Let's talk to John in Jefferson.
Hi, Hope. How does Long Street Cafe keep the biscuits so fresh and tasty?
It's easy, John. We make biscuits fresh from scratch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's go to Sarah in Dawsonville.
Hi, Hope. Just wanted to say I love the selection of meats and vegetables.
Thanks, Sarah. Time for one more call.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Mary on your radio commercials. She does a great job.
I think so, too. Thanks, Mary.
You're welcome. Oops.
Long Street Cafe with 2 Gainesville locations.
There's nothing like cool, crisp air of fall in North Georgia after a hot, humid summer. Conditioned Air Systems is here to get your HVAC system ready for the changing seasons. With regular maintenance that saves you money on your energy bill, and look no further for quick, reliable plumbing repairs or installation services. Conditioned Air Systems has been a trusted name in Northeast Georgia for over 45 years. Call us today at 1-800-AC-REPAIR.
Where can you find everything from power tools to pajamas, from jigsaws to jewelry, from tillers to tea towels?
The answer is Autry's Ace Gift Section. New jewelry lines, sassy PJs, amazing Tyler candles, and Diva's glamorous laundry detergent that everyone is going crazy over.
We have you covered. Stop by for your lawn and garden needs, home projects, and pick up a unique gift to give or keep.
Autry's Ace Hardware on Thompson Bridge Road in Gainesville.
97.5 Glory FM, your radio station for North Georgia Sports. Mike Wofford with you here. And thanks again to Representative Emory Donahue joining me this morning on the show. High school football action from last night. The teams in the other bracket from Gainesville in Class 5A play. It was Rome defeating Jackson County. That historic run for the Panthers ends as they fall by a final of 31-17. Other local scores around the area last night. In Class AAA play, the number 1 seed Jefferson, they fell behind 21-0 in the first quarter, came back and defeated Cairo 47-28 the final in that one. Beaufort in Class 6A play, they advanced to the semifinals. It'll be at home at Philip Beer Stadium next Friday night as they were victorious over Douglas, winning that ball game, Douglas County, in fact, 30-15. They defeat Douglas County last night, 30-15. West Forsyth, they had their run stopped last night by North Gwinnett. The Bulldogs defeating the Wolverines last night. They advance on. In Class A action, it was Rabun County shut out by Pepperell. Also, Lincoln County, Tim Bunch's team down at Longstreet Cafe, they were victorious last night as they defeated Brooks County in Class A play. Some other games of interest, LaGrange, the team that defeated North Hall, they advanced to the state semifinals. They defeat Stevenson. Also, it was Sandy Creek winning their game, so Sandy Creek and LaGrange will play in the state semifinals, two teams in the same region. One of those will go to the state championship on December 17th. Also, Kell was a victor over Cartersville last night, eliminating them. Private school action, GAC was a winner over Athens Academy in a big way, and also a bigger score had Hebron Christian defeating Prince Avenue Christian. So GAC will take on Hebron Christian in the semifinals of the state's private school section coming up next week, with the winner to play for the state championship coming up at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But we'll find out more details about the Gainesville High football team later on here on 97.5 Glory FM. Let's talk a little college and pro football action now to wrap things up in the last 15 minutes of the show. We're going to talk with Harper Gabell and Dave Cohen. They were in Norfolk, Virginia this morning, getting ready for the big football game, the last one of the season, as Old Dominion plays host to Georgia State. Hey there, Harper.
Good morning, Mike. I think I may understand the high school rules and regulations a little bit better, but there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts that are associated with this one, aren't there?
Oh, no doubt about that. And
with the playoffs and everything, hey, you're suspended. Well, we got a court injunction now that we need to go through because we can't play. We'd have to forfeit the game. So very interesting how this works out.
Well, how about yesterday? You saw the big brawl between Ole Miss and Mississippi State at the end of the game there in the Egg Bowl. And so, okay, what happens with those players? See the correlation?
Your guess is as good as mine right now. Exactly. I mean, there are rules in place, but everything's subject to change. And, you know, I don't like it when the track official shoots the gun, bang, and signifies the start of the race. And then you run around for a lap and you go, hey, how far are we going? I don't know, just keep running. So they've got to do some things a little bit better and tighten some screws that might be a little bit loose. But I wish I had all the answers, Mike. I'm going to rely on you and Dave for all those.
How about answering the questions we had even last week in the NFL? You know, the Falcons end up winning over New Orleans, and we see teams that are really showing that it takes more than just what's on the field to have a football team, and they're really suffering, I think, business-wise. And the Falcons take on the Jets tomorrow, and a team probably is in organizationally probably one of the worst-run programs in the whole NFL, and the Jets.
And they've been that way for a little while. That's not new, and it was a nice win. After 5 losses, any win would be nice, but beating one of the worst teams in the league and then getting to play another pretty bad one in the Jets, just a reward in the schedule. So you got a chance to pick up a couple of victories. If you do it, great. But then you got the Seahawks and the Rams and, you know, some other teams coming up here in the near future. It's not an easy road to hoe. There's still an outside chance. A lot of people have to lose, but that's the fun thing about rooting for the Falcons right now is that you know, chance is 1 in a million, Mike. So there's still a chance. And from Dumb and Dumber, there's still a chance. There is. Just keep winning, and we'll see what happens. But how good did the Bears look yesterday? And
well,
they got the Eagles scratching their heads in Kansas City. That was a tough loss. And Detroit may not make the playoffs.
We'll go back
right
to the
now.
games on Thursday because it was not really a dominant team. You know, you used to look at the records of those teams back on Thanksgiving Day. It was like 500 best playing back on Thursday.
Well, those were must-win. I mean, the first one would be between Detroit and Green Bay. Obviously, that has, you know, obvious playoff implications.
Oh, absolutely.
They're trying to catch the Bears, though, and with the Bears winning yesterday, Green Bay's a half a game behind them. So every game those two play for the rest of the year is going to be a battle. But does Detroit slip in as a wild card or a second wild card to the loser of whoever doesn't win the division between the Packers and the Bears?
Well, the Bears, though, don't we have a new coach up there?
Yeah. Yeah, Johnson came from Detroit. He was the coordinator there for the Lions, and he has quietly worked on Caleb Williams' footwork and accuracy and throw selection.
Mm-hmm.
Throw this guy. If it's not there, you don't have to win the game on every play. Dump it off, and we'll get a first down. Give your tight end and your running back a chance to keep the sticks moving, and it's working. And I've got a friend that was in Chicago during the '85 season, and he knows everything about that team, literally everything. And he's cautiously optimistic right now. I don't know how good we are. Yeah, you do. Enjoy it. Your team's great right now. They're 9-3. Have a blast. And he's always trying to, downplay it. But who wouldn't want to be the Chicago Bears right now after such a long period of time of looking up at Minnesota and everybody else? It's a great time.
So did that coach, did he interview with Arthur Blank?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I wasn't sure.
He might have taken the first thing that was offered to him.
Sure.
And the Bears may have said, look, I've seen you beat us for years. Now help us beat them. And he has. And it's taken 2 years for him to kind of turn some things around in an organization that's needed decades previous to that. So it can be done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It can be done in a hurry, too, can it? So here we are the last month of the regular season. Is there any team that, the fans can really get behind right now? Say, even in my mind right now, the NFC South's a mess right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it like a couple years ago. No one wants to win it. Everyone's going to let somebody else do it, and they're going, no, you do it.
Carolina's got a chance for real sakes,
Patriots are for real, and the Bills are not. Watch out for the Chargers, because I don't know what they're going to do. But the Rams in the NFC and the Seahawks, believe it or not.
Yep.
Watch, their defense is phenomenal. So be careful about,
Hey, defense wins championships, doesn't it?
Always does. The first time I heard it was Bill Parcells. This is in the mid-'80s when Lawrence Taylor and Leonard Marshall and Carl Banks was part of that team, and he was quoted once as saying, if they can't score on us, the worst that we can do is tie.
There you go. Yeah,
and Phil Simms said that also in an interview very soon after that. And they go, that they're not the first to ever say it, but the first that I've heard say it. So very impressive, and it's true.
I bet impressive. Let's real quickly now turn to the Dave here with college football. Yesterday we had the Georgia Tech game on our station. Defense there, 3 field goals each team, and Georgia had that one pass play for a touchdown in the second quarter, and that was really all the offense for both teams yesterday.
Yeah, that's part of the rivalry that you think about it and go, Georgia didn't look good. Well, they're not going to look good against their rival because those guys are playing as hard as they possibly can. And for their, playoff life, the Tech, when you think about it, they've had a tough road to hoe here the last 3 weeks, 3 or 4. They've lost 3 of the last 4 games, so that was a must-win game for them.
Yep.
They're playing for their for everything. But what a mess we've got in figuring that out, don't you think, Mike?
Absolutely.
A&M losing, and now we got to wait till the Iron Bowl is over to figure out who's going to get to go and play for the championship game. And if Georgia's already in it, I'd say I don't want to play.
Bingo. That was the question. Are the conference championships meaningful anymore?
No. If you're already in, you only have something to lose. Why would I want to do that?
Money?
Well, true, but not as much money as you're going to get if you save yourself for the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think, again, this is another thing that they're going to have to change and modify this in a way that, teams aren't going to be complaining about having to, go one extra game for meaningless. I mean, it's nice to have the championship to put in your trophy case, but if you win, if you win the playoff,
with the Bulldogs losing Drew Bobo, it's okay. What was that game worth to us? long term, and that's going to be the big thing. And now we mentioned the GHSA for most of the show with this committee is okay. Where's the accountability to the committee? There's none, is there?
It's going to change every week and month, right? Because they haven't figured it out yet. It's they just a couple years ago, Mike, there were only 4 teams. Now there's 12, and it's but are they going to go to 64? That's what they did for the basketball tournament.
FCS?
I don't know.
FCS has done it for a long time, haven't they? And nobody's really ever complained about it. But it's like they can't get right on the FBS level.
I know nobody really has. It's this is our schedule. This is the way it works. We got 32 teams. 5 weeks later, we'll have a champion, and we'll figure it out.
All right. I bet we figure it out with Dave Cohen. You hand the phone over to him. Can we do that, please?
We'll do.
All right.
Absolutely.
So we're going to wrap things up here. Harper LaBelle, he is the man. And then we talk to the voice of Georgia State. With the last few minutes, we're going to preview the game today. Is we've got Georgia State and Old Dominion. Oh, David.
Good morning, Mike.
So the big question I've got for you for the day's ball game is how healthy, who can even play in today's ball game for Georgia State?
Well, I can tell you, starting at the quarterback spot, Christian Veyer will get the start. Remember last week at Troy, Cameron Brown, on the receiving end of that targeting call, went into concussion protocol.
Wow.
Talking to Coach McGee on Friday, Cam Brown's not out of concussion protocol. So right now, your quarterback hierarchy is Christian Veyer will start, and the true freshman from Toombs County, T.J. Stanley, right now is your number 2.
Wow. All right, how about is Ted Hurst going to play?
Ted Hurst is ready and available, and he'll play. He played about 10 snaps last week, but from what Coach McGee told me again yesterday, he is cleared, ready to go. I don't know exactly how many snaps he'll play, but from a health standpoint, he is ready to go.
All right, you being on the road with the team, you and Harper like you are, in standpoint, this last game of the season, what's really the atmosphere of the team right now? You're saying, are you ready to get it over with, or go ahead and say, let's go ahead and do this thing one more time, let's get a win?
Well, I think the latter. We talked to Mason Cook yesterday after the walkthrough. You'll hear that interview on the pregame show, Countdown to Kickoff, when we hit the air at 1:30. You're talking about a 6-year guy who was taking on somewhat of a leadership role. And my question to him is, obviously the season did not go as everyone hoped or planned that it would go. But even with practice during the week and their walkthrough on Friday, still pretty spirited. I'm sure some are ready for the season to come to a conclusion. I mean, they're 1-10 and 0-7. But you got a faction that wants to play the final game, come up here, be a little bit of a spoiler to Old Dominion, and get that first Sun Belt win.
Is ODU bowl eligible?
Yeah, they're 8-3, and they are 5-2 in Sun Belt Conference play, led by Colton Joseph, one of the better quarterbacks in the Sun Belt.
All right, so we'll have the action for you this afternoon. The Panther pregame show starting at 1:30. Kickoff will be at 2 p.m. Let's get a W, buddy, okay?
That would be great, Mike. I'm with you.
All right, I appreciate it very much. That is Dave Cohen, Harper LaBelle here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show. We'll wrap things up here and get ready for the top of the hour, and we'll get ready for the last game of the season this afternoon at 1:30 p.m. Kickoff will be at 2 right here on 97.5 Glory FM. We'll have details about the Gainesville High situation with the Georgia High School Association as soon as it becomes available. We'll be following that story for you coming up next week here on 97.5 Glory FM. Plus, we'll bring you high school basketball coming up on Tuesday. North Hall plays at East Hall, only here on your home for North Georgia Sports, 97.5 Glory FM. That's the Saturday Morning Sports Show. I'm Mike Wofford. Thanks for being with us here on your home for North Georgia Sports, 97.5 Glory FM.